One of the things today that parents fail with, and they don't realise they fail with, probably because it's happened to them in the decades before them, parent to parent to parent, is we tell our children to conform, to obey, to do as they're told, to be part of the accepted system, deceptive society, to think as we're told to think, to believe as we're told to believe, to obey authority, whatever the authority is. It's like in communist Russia, they were told to obey the communist government. In democratic England, they were told to obey their prime minister. In America, they're told to obey the president and the laws that are created from those who are supposedly more worthy than us. And what we need to tell our children is that no one is more worthy than them. They are as good as it gets. And therefore, they need to think for themselves. And one of the ways I did it with my children from the start is music. I taught my children to accept all music, but to only choose the music they wanted, to what they liked. And there for a long, long time I didn't like rap music, and then I finally found two or three rap songs I liked, so that was quite funny. But the one I really got them into was I got orchestral music, because today's children all think it's so square, so out of touch, so boring, rah rah. And there's some beautiful music. So we got Bach and Beethoven and all those, and while they homeschooled, I would play in the background, and they started liking the music, and then we found I didn't like modern music. I was going to stores and they were constantly playing rap where they swear, using bad language. And I thought that was very distasteful, and I didn't want to hear that, so I didn't want it in my home. And there was something about actually having sex. I remember being in a $2 shop. They were talking, and the song was about having sex and explaining it, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding!" And they were using bad language on top of it, so I was really shocked. Um, some of our secondhand stores actually play Christian music, so I tended to go towards them simply because it was nicer music. I ended up listening more and more and more as my children became teenagers to modern music, and I found there was a whole lot of it I liked. And I actually have a friend across the road there who's constantly on my case about playing modern music. When he hears me go past, he goes on, look, and he says he likes the music from the 70s and all that, and he doesn't think we should play modern music, but there are modern music songs I like. So the latest one I like is I found it yesterday, I think, or the day before, um, was it going to the movies and going seeing it at the movies. And in the song, this is where I differ from other people. It says, "Go to the movies." Yeah, and she says, "I see you at the movies. I see you with your lipstick on." One of the things I hate is um, cosmetics on women, on makeup, because it's chemicals. I mean, I see there's a woman on the internet who's a doctor, and she's full on about chemicals in your food, chemicals in your water, chemicals being injected into you. She's pro health, and her face is covered in makeup, and it just makes her look like a fool, makes her look fake. So I don't like makeup on women. You taste it, it's gross. Lipstick tastes gross. Even if they make it taste like strawberries, it still tastes like wax and stuff like that. And you kiss their cheek and it's got powder or cream or whatever. It's all gross. And most of the guys I know only like it because it makes the woman feel happy, so they pretend they like it. It's just horrible. And in the song, she says, "I see you at the movies. I see you with your lipstick on." So I put it in. I see you at the movies. I see you with your bright dress on, or your red dress on, or whatever. So I changed the song, and I got a lot of songs that have bad language in them, modern ones. So all I do is cut that piece out. I've got good recording software and professional stuff, and I just cut out the clips, the bits, the bad swear words, and then I can enjoy the song without the swear word. Some people look at me and they hear the music and they know I believe in God, and they're rather shocked that I'm listening to the song. But when it comes to the part with the swear word, it doesn't appear, and I can do it so well now that you can't hear it's missing. So it's quite good. So I could record with a piece of the background, and instead of having to put your makeup on, I see you with your makeup on, I could put I see you with your red dress on by me, and then put that background on, and you wouldn't know, or I could just cut it out. The point is you don't have to accept things as they are, and this is the most special thing we should teach our children. Is if they hear a like Percy's Face with a Summer Place and Andy Williams singing Moon River, appreciate and like the song. You know, my children, when they all got to adulthood, they all brought 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s music. Plus, they had stuff from orchestrational stuff, Percy Face, Autumn Leaves, and all sorts of stuff like that to complement, just to enjoy it, basically, instead of being told by society to conform to one way of being. When you hear young people and they say to you, "Oh, that's old music. That's boring," you know they've been taught to be conformers. And when you're a conformer, you're a robot. Society puts a path ahead to you, tells you what to think, how to believe, follow every fad that comes out, waste your money on every fad that comes out. Like hula hoops in the 1950s made millions of dollars for companies, maybe billions. Skateboards made huge amounts of money for people. There were those chatter rings. There's always fads coming out. There's music fads as well, like punk, rock, pop, um, psychedelic, and on and on and on it goes. Heavy rock, and they have these fads, and these fads are and disco, and they make huge results. Like disco is a good example. For a period of time, disco was a super huge thing, made billions and billions of dollars for the record companies and millions of dollars for the rock stars, and it's just ridiculous. I think with rock and roll music, you should be able to accept, like you make a hit song, you should get up to, say, $500,000 for that song, and anything over that goes to charity. And therefore, charities get a lot of money, and they feed the poor and build houses and stuff for the needy. And the rock stars don't get to hoard it like they do. So anyway, that's thinking out of the square. It's not adoring them. It's sitting there thinking, well, what's going on here? These people are hoarding money, and we adore them and love them for hoarding money. While there's people all around us starving, and we adore the government. Yet the government takes billions and billions of dollars every week, and yet they're starving and homeless. And the churches, they like the Catholic Church and some of the Mormon Church, huge churches, huge amounts of money going every week, and there's poor and suffering everywhere. So thinking out of the square and teaching your children to think out of squares, teaching them to see things as they really are, not how they're told to, like about the churches, like about the government, and thinking out of the square is not always voting for one particular political party. They're die-hard liberals, they're die-hard conservatives, and there's always that small amount that sway it left and right. So you'll have 60 to 80, maybe 80% of the voters are die-hard Liberals and 80% are die-hard Conservatives, and it's the rest that sway the votes every election. If you're a thinker, you don't think of only one. You actually learn the policies and vote accordingly to the policies. If you're like me, I don't vote either way because I don't believe in the political system. It's not democratic, it's not fair, it doesn't work for the people, quite clearly and obviously. It only works for the wealthy. Therefore, I don't vote at elections, and I haven't voted since I was 18. Voted once, and I just can't believe that people believe that the same mistakes are repeated over and over again and nothing ever changes. One of the things I did notice with political parties is they both head, whether they're liberals or conservatives, in the same path for the wealthy. It never changes. The wealthy get richer, they get less taxed, the poor get poorer. There's always poor and suffering, there's always homeless, there's always people starving to death, and yet it never changes. No matter who gets into power, they're always promising those changes to the masses because the masses give them the votes. Once they're in, it never happens. It stays exactly the same as it is, no matter which side gets in. And that's pure proof that it's not going to work. It doesn't work. The political system's a failure. And same with local elections and, local councils and the like. Makes no difference. The whole thing's wrong. Um, I was thinking this morning about God giving, it says in the Bible, God gives dominion over us power over the world. And that doesn't mean we go out and kill and eat animals. It means we make sure that everything, the land, the animals, and ourselves are all healthy because we're the ones with the intelligence and are healthy, and or everything's like growing a garden. Everything's growing productively, healthily, and positively, and we're all benefiting from it. Everyone, all the animals. Instead, we have cows and paddocks trapped. We separate the bulls from the cows. We're nurturing animals. We are controlling the world. We're killing and hunting them. We're eating them. We're driving them out of their wilderness. We're destroying their environments. And then we can't understand why they kill and attack people. And we are the enemy of the system. And when you go to a church and you say, well, why are you eating meat and why are you taking members of the church out to hunt? And why do you support big corporate companies? And they say, oh, God said we'd have dominion and control over the world. It's a case of getting it completely wrong. It's God gave us responsibility over the world to look after and keep it looked after like a garden, the Garden of Eden, healthy for all, not just for one. See, He loves unconditional, therefore it's for all animals, not just the human race. It wasn't put here for us to kill and destroy it. So it's another way of looking at the square. These are my opinions, but I'm using my opinions as a way to show you how I'm looking at the square, and I'm not conforming to what people are telling me. There are some things I'm bound to conform to that I don't know I conform to. I've argued conformity with a lot of people, a huge amount of people, and I've been absolutely amazed at how they don't get it. You tell them that no, you're not thinking if you only vote for one political party every year, or you go to one church and they say, no, this is what I believe, and I'll ask them. This is one that always gets them just before election. You say, so what does your party believe in? What are their policies? And they just come up blank. They wouldn't have a clue. And they say, oh, I like the political leader. And I'm like, so you're going to make your vote based on the political leader? And they say, well, it's a good person. So how do you know? You don't know them. Anyone can lie. Anyone can tell you anything. So you need to be a thinker, not a and accept that, and you don't base your political views on what you see on the news, and this is a scandal. So thinking out of the square is what we should teach our children, and we should show them various ways, like choosing music from all the eras, going back to the first recorded music, and even going back to the 1500s and further back. There are fundamental Christian songs I like a lot, and so there's that as well. You know, hymns, the old hymns, and they're just nice songs to sing. You know, so I like them, and I really like the Battle of the Hymn Republic. It's one of my favourites. I can play it the guitar. Pick it. It's really cool. Um, Thinking out of the square is when events happen in the world and you don't accept everything, you don't accept everything you're told, you sit back and you say, what's going on here? And then you make your decision in your head about what's going on. Or when someone comes into your house and says, did you hear about blah, blah, blah? He's a really bad person, or she's a really bad person. They went and did this, this, and that. And like you might say, they had an affair, or they're up to no good, or they're doing this. Sit back and say, where's your proof? And then, and even if they have what they call as proof, if you don't get the other person's opinion, you don't know. I have a sort of thing where I take information that people tell me and I just put it aside. I'm like in a mental shelf, and I don't do anything with it. In the future, if I need to find out more about it, I will find out more about it. If I don't need to find out more about it, I won't. It's not a problem. It's of no interest to me. Even if it's a really bad story about somebody, it's none of my business. And I'm not going to go around spreading it to other people. The police can deal with whatever the situation, and the people involved with that person can deal with the situation. It's all fine. You know, God looks after me. I'm fine. It's good. It's not a problem. So, and another thing about thinking out of the square is you could meet someone who, I remember Mum crashed the car into a pole coming from Willsdown, and we were stuck. There was this huge pole stuck into the car, and we couldn't move in the middle of, in the bush. So I think it was an old gravel road, and a gang came up on Harley Davidsons, and they saw us on the side of the road. Mum and was it, no, five kids, mum and five little blonde, blue-eyed kids, and they pulled up. The gang did, and they got off their bikes and they pushed the car off the pole, got the pole out from under the car so we could move forward. And Mum started the car up, and we were on our way, and the gang just sort of waved and left. And so everyone, that particular part shows you there is good and bad in everybody. I remember a story on the radio. Woman said that she was a worker worker, and she had to see a gang member, and it was a bad thing. And she was going to work, and she got a flat tire on a country road, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm stuck," and she couldn't change the tire. And then that particular gang member turned up in a car, and he saw her, and he got out of the car. He walked over to the car, and he changed the flat tire for her, jacked the car up, changed the tire, put the new tire on, jacked down, put everything away for her, got back on the bike, and went to the meeting he was to have with her. When she got to the meeting, she was sitting there at the desk, and he walked in, and he sat down and acted as if nothing had happened, that he hadn't done anything that morning. And they dealt with his issue, and off he went. And she was like totally perplexed by the whole thing, and she was talking about it in the interview. So that kind of thing happens. It's really cool. So judgment is a killer of thinking. When someone tells you gossip or someone tells you something, you have a blank statement, thought stuck in your head, and that's it. You refuse to allow anything else in. Like if you hate blacks, if you hate whites, if you hate Chinese, if you hate something, And W. Clement Stone mentioned it. He said he wanted to eat a certain something and he ate it and it was foul and he didn't like it and he heard from everyone it was nice. It was grossed out by it. So every time he went to a restaurant and they offered it to him, he said, no, 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 no thanks. And I think he did that for about 20 years. And then he was in the restaurant with a friend, and the friend turned around and ordered it and said, do you want some? And he said, no. He says, no, this stuff's gross. And he said, no, it's not. And he said, yes, this is gross. I had it years ago and it's foul. I can't stand it. And the guy said, are you sure it wasn't off? You got a bad batch. And he goes, no, 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 this stuff's awful. And he said, well, I'll buy some and you try some. And Clement Stone said, wow. And he prided himself being a thinker and a motivational speaker. So he tried it and he was shocked. And he said, oh, it is nice. And he said, yeah, your mind was set on something and all these years you refused to eat it to find out. There could have been something else. You didn't try it again and stuff like that. So in our lives, we get this blanket thought and we refuse to budge up. None of it's pride, ego, arrogance, I'm right and that's it. I'm always right on the things I think about. So therefore, this is right. I've made up my mind and I'm not going to budge my mind. Narrow-minded thinking means blindness, mental blindness, life blindness, and you lose a huge amount of opportunities and friends because you will not think out of that narrow tunnel you've created for yourself. So what we have to do is teach our children to expand, to be open-minded, to accept everything from everywhere and then pick and choose what they want to believe in. It's their free will. If your child goes up and you're a Democrat and your child goes up and becomes a Republican, then that's their thing. Don't pick at them. Don't give them a hard time over it. It's their life. You have your way, you have your choices, you have your thoughts, but be adjustable. And no matter what people tell you, no matter what you're told is right or wrong, figure it out for yourself and use the evidence you get from all areas. I've seen people where they've been given evidence, like I'll talk about a friend, and they say their friend's a bad person, and as years go by, I'm saying, well, how do you feel about blah blah now? They've done really good, help people in these charities, done this and this. No, they're a bad person. And you can't get through to them. And it doesn't, in some cases, and many famous or successful people will tell you, it doesn't matter what you do. You can't get through to some people. You'd have to die, be bleeding on the street from saving one of their kids for them to start thinking, maybe this is a good person after all. They just don't get it. And when you are with people who are like that are diehards, that don't get it, but you feel that there's something else in the situation, and you feel they're wrong, don't get dragged down with them. Because they're limiting their life, they're limiting their future, they're limiting their thinking powers, they're limiting their opportunities while they're trying to make you do the same. Misery loves company. And people who are whatever they are, like if you hate blacks, you try and make everyone hate blacks. If you hate whites, you try and make everyone hate whites. It's madness, but it's the human way in a dysfunctional, toxic world. So don't let yourself get dragged down with other people. And that's the thing to tell your children. So your friends will have a view about drugs. Your friends will have a view about alcohol and parties. Your friends will have a view about love, companionship, friendship, what it is to be loyal, and what humble and honesty are. I've met a huge amount of people when I was a teenager who said they were honest, yet they stole stuff. And I've met adults who, a preacher who gets up and preaches God and love and compassion, who rips people off at work. It's people are interesting, so be adjustable. Don't set your light on other people and follow them blindly, because as they will pay for their stupidity or foolishness, so will you by following them. Choose your own path. Teach your children to choose their own path, think their own way, and don't get upset when your children choose a different life to what you've brought them up to be. It's their choice. Let them have their own life. If they don't agree with what you do, that's fine. Well, battery power's on 15%. So I'll cut this short here. So this is just my quick rant or talk about thinking out of the square and being open-minded and thinking for yourself. It will do you the greatest wonder in your future. Thinking for yourself and bring your children up to be thinkers. My children had just have T-shirts with "I am not a conformist" on them, and they were very proud of them. We shouldn't conform. We should. And all the vendors in the world never conformed because they visioned something amazing and wonderful and wanted to do that. I had a thing here where I wanted to turn the South Waikato into a Garden of Eden. Healthy food, grow our own stuff. Um, it's very green here. And we get lots of water, fresh water, and all this wonderful stuff. But all the people in authority shut it down as quick as they could. They were heavily against it. And I wanted to do teaching for the adults, to teach them to be thinkers of for themselves, to think health, take them arts and crafts to learn how to grow their own food. But the authorities are into commercialism, taxation, rates, money, 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 titles and statuses, and they want nothing to do with it. So I was trying to have vision, they just shut it all down. So it might happen, it might not. We'll see.